So the Call of Duty Vanguard Alpha is here, and we finally have our first hands-on playable demo of the game's multiplayer. So today, we're gonna break down everything you need to know here in regards to some key gameplay features, some hidden tips you might not necessarily consider right off the bat, and as well, close it out with my thoughts, feelings, concerns, and suggestions here for this going forward. So that said, as we go along, let me know your thoughts down below. Are you guys looking forward to jumping in here? Have you guys jumped in already? How you feeling about the game mode itself? Whatever the case may be, let me know your thoughts down below. But as well, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like down below. Let's aim for 1,000 likes here on this. And of course, if you are new to the channel, nearly 60% of viewers are not subscribed. So if you want to stay up to date with all things Vanguard and anything COD related, we have a ton of stuff coming you guys do not want to miss. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're new. That said, let's jump right into all you need to know about Vanguard's Champion Hill Alpha. So let's start at the beginning, the core fundamentals, moving our way into things like gunplay and weaponry and through other areas, and finally landing on my thoughts, concerns, and suggestions for the Alpha and moving forward. Starting with those fundamentals though, Champion Hill, that game mode here within the Alpha, is 2v2 and 3v3 in a sort of tournament style. It's not like your all-out war like maybe some initially thought, where everybody drops in and all of those maps are open to everybody that you can cross over. Instead, you're still matched up with other teams in 2v2 and 3v3 formats until people end up losing all of their lives. Matches are randomly selected via pre-match seeding, so you can play teams once, twice, 3 times, and so on, or you could play them, well, not at all. It's all really the luck of the draw here at this. Once teams end up losing their lives, they're eliminated, they can spectate, but then matches are reseeded by those that are still remaining. You have on total 12 lives to start. Each match you can lose no lives or you can lose all of them, but it really all comes down to that independent match, and also if you have lives remaining, you live to fight another match. Individual match results are based upon kills for and against, similar to kind of a mini team deathmatch here at this. So you could end up only losing 1 life and win 5-1 or something like that. But then whenever you move on, you could absolutely crush the next round. It really all comes down to life management overall. You could absolutely crush one game and get crushed the next, but also still not be knocked out, so long as you have lives remaining. Your objective though, of course, is to take more lives than you lose, but if you do lose them, be aware you do have a finite number of them, 12 to be exact again. Though what is a cool little feature is that each round there is a life token in mid-map of every single match. Though there's only one, it doesn't replenish. The first one to redeem that ends up claiming it for that match towards their team's total. So it's a really interesting gamble here at this, but be careful because being front and center there with not a lot of cover in most of these maps, it is in a very high traffic area and you can be picked off pretty easily. But it's a great way to end up trying to maybe save farm lives and stay in the lead as long as possible. Though one thing to consider is that if you go for this a little too early, you have all 12 lives still, it will actually credit you with $1,000 in cash that you can use for upgrades and utility. Now, talking about upgrades, you can actually upgrade your weapon mid-match and even mid-life if you want to, where the changes are actually immediate. It doesn't require you to respawn and to start a new life over for those changes and attachments to be made to your weapon. You can upgrade upwards of 10 attachments here, and then that will ultimately make the weapon legendary rarity here at this, though I think you have like 2 or 3 attachments before 10 that count as your legendary as well. Now, as for things like armor that you'll experience in gameplay as well, that's something that it's very similar to how it works within Cold War. It fills a full 100% of an armor plate, as opposed to say like 15 of the first armor plate that needs slotted and then 100% of the next one, so you eventually just use 2 instead of just only missing out on 15 total. So it's a definitely nice continuation of that system from Cold War here, but also if you run over armor plates, it auto-fills for you, so you don't have to worry about being caught in any sort of armor plating animation getting you killed. One of those new features introduced within Vanguard is of course those barricades and destructible cover. This was actually pretty interesting to play around with here. It was a lot of wooden barricades that you'll find around these maps. That was primarily the destructible parts here of this, and kind of denoting what is destructible here on a first playthrough. So you can break through them by shooting them, exploding them, sprinting through them, sliding through them, and punching them. I think I covered all the bases there, but it opens up new lines of sight that can be advantageous, but if you're spotted, it is thin cover, so you can absolutely be shot through this, so you may only get a kill or 2 out of it, so just be careful with that. Also, I'd have to go through and test it, but pretty cool part that it seemed to be the case here when playing through this in the early playtest that we had is that it didn't seem like it was scripted or predetermined destruction. It seemed like different bits would break off depending on where you interacted with that piece, so kind of a cool little unique to that scenario situation if that holds up. Now, gunplay itself in actual gunfights here, time to kill is one thing that I've heard a lot of questions about, and truth be told, we didn't have any time to sit down and test TTK or anything like this, but right now, Now, off of my just couple hours of playthroughs here, it seemed like it was on point relatively with Modern Warfare, maybe a bit slower, so somewhat of a mix between Cold War and Modern Warfare. Cold War's health is 150 while Modern Warfare's is 100, so maybe I'd say if I were to try and pinpoint a comparison of those two directly, it'd be like 115 to 120-ish in health, maybe slightly on the faster end. I don't think that it was directly one-to-one with either of them, but that could be wrong. Again, that was only based off the experience of 2 hours of playtime, probably with mid-match stuff, probably like an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half or so. Headshots, though, actually seem to be really crucial. Again, I didn't get anything to really test out any headshot multipliers or how much this held up with, but I couldn't tell in the heat of the moment, but especially when someone was armored up, it felt like I was shooting peas if I wasn't hitting headshots in there. So absolutely try and aim a little bit higher here, make your shots count, and that will help you out big time. Now, of course, one of the big things here with this is the utility and perks and weaponry and all that kind of stuff here that you can experience right out of the gate in the buy zone initially. You also revisit the buy zone a couple of different times throughout the round robin sort of tournament style of this, but firstly, let's talk about the support and streaks. You end up having your armor plates available for $100. The full armor replenishment is $250, so you kind of save 50 bucks here in your economy since you can end up slotting 3 armor plates to be full. The extra life, which can be incredibly beneficial towards later rounds, is $3,000. The spy plane is $500. The flame knot is $7,500. The Franken gun is $6,000, and the V2 rocket is a whopping $25,000 in cash. Now, no one in our playthroughs ended up getting this. It was 2v2 only, so I'd imagine it'd be a little bit easier here if you end up playing 3v3 to obtain that. I don't know that I saw anybody really even cross $15,000 or $20,000, let alone get to $25,000. So we were still a little bit ways off here at this, but anytime you end up activating any of these support utility or streaks, it activates automatically at the start of the next round. Perks, we end up having Demolition for $750, Tracker for $1,000, Double Time for $500, Ghost for $1,000, Survival Training for $1,000, High Alert for $1,000, and Forward Intel for $1,500. And perks, to my knowledge, once you buy them, you have them for the duration of as long as you're in the sort of tournament here at this. So things like High Alert helps really early on and can keep helping you out as the game progresses. Weapons, there are 2 rotations here of weapons, so you won't get the same weapons every single time, but Rotation 1 and Rotation 2 are always the same weapons on offer. It's just a matter of which one you have that game, or set of games, because it goes the entire Champion Hill tournament. Now, since they're rather interchangeable, let's just call Rotation 1 this one of the M1928. That's your default SMG you have. You can also buy the bar for $500, the auto-looting shotgun for $700, the machine pistol, which is also default, that comes with you with the M1928, the 3-line rifle for $1,500, and the DP27 MG for $1,500 as well. Rotation 2 includes the revolving shotgun for $1,000, the MP40, which is your default SMG to start, the 1911, again your default sidearm, the MG42 for $1,200, the STG44 for $500, and the Kar98K for $1,500. So when it comes to weapons, there's a few things to note, but there's a bit of everything here. Number 1, there's always a weapon that you can swap to off the start since you have $500 by default. You can either buy the STG or the bar immediately. Number 2, pro tip going into it, switch to your secondary before you buy a weapon of your choice if you want to get that STG or bar immediately. You're actually kind of able to overkill it and sacrifice your sidearm for a second primary for that $500. It doesn't just auto replace the primary you start with. Number 3, LMGs are actually really good, especially upgraded, at least from my experience going up against them. I didn't quite get to use them all that much, but consider saving up and upgrading those. Number 4, the MP40 and the STG was actually a really fun combo, I thought. The bar was also really solid here with the M1928, but I just like Rotation 2 of that MP40 and STG a little bit better. Then finally, you have the equipment of the MK2 frag grenade, the stun grenade, both of those being default, the gammon bomb for $200, the throwing knife for $200, the gas grenade for $200, and the S-mine for $200 as well. And that's all your utility. Now, put that all together and that's your experience in Champion Hill. But here's the big question. What happens if you, well, win the whole thing? Well, check it out.
You eliminated Team Fox. We're done here. Stretch your legs. Champion Hill victory is yours.
So really not all that much as of right now. You of course get that first place victory, a decent match bonus, and well, that's kind of it. Obviously, there's not a whole lot right now because it's an alpha focused on the gameplay portion of it, but here's the hoping come the full launch of the game when this is actually implemented. I'm really hoping this rewards you with something pretty cool here, maybe like an exclusive blueprint, but we'll have to wait and see. But again, that's Champion Hill with it. So moving over into my thoughts, concerns, suggestions. Overall, firstly starting with my general thoughts, it feels like a decent cross between Call of Duty World War II, Sledgehammer's last game, and Modern Warfare. A bit more fluent in that movement and such like Modern Warfare, but Gunplay feels a little bit like a cross again, directly between Modern Warfare and World War II. And artistically, you can kind of see that it feels like a little bit more of a advanced warfare, perhaps, in that animation style, but mixed with the Modern Warfare movement and engine. So an interesting kind of cross here with that one, a mix between a couple of different things, but here's the deal, man. I had a lot of fun with this personally for a handful of reasons. Number one, it's not Cold War. I really hate to rag on the game as much as I do. I just really didn't have any fun with traditional MP and Cold War this past year. Whether it be exhaustion from the strict skill-based matchmaking, the streak system that just kind of hands out streaks to players, the mechanics, I don't really know what it is. I just didn't have fun with it. Campaign and zombies, hell yeah, those were a blast, but traditional 6v6, I just was wanting something else. So number one overall, I enjoyed it because it was something new and it wasn't Cold War. I got to experience traditional COD for the first time in months really, where I wasn't quite dreading it. But if I were to suggest it, and I'll probably come back to this, I'd say give it a try. I mean, it's free alpha. What do you have to lose? Either you don't like it or you do. There's nothing really to it. Aside from maybe just going in mentally prepared to hate it, who knows? Maybe you enjoy it. My expectations are always kind of level anymore, so if I have a good time playing it, I enjoy it. It's a pretty simple mentality, I think. Number two, we actually also played with people who wanted to play and get similar footage. That creates great gameplay scenarios and great dynamics. Of course, when it's out and in the open, you're always going to see rats. You're always going to see people camping in corners and stuff like that that won't be too enjoyable. So maybe it's not as enjoyable in your cases, but even playing some of the best players in the world, I had a good time with it here. And I don't know how much that will change coming down the line, but for what I played, it wasn't bad. There also wasn't any absurd matchmaking, which again comes back to the future here at this. Matches were all relatively even. Sure, we all had our matches where we crushed it, but we also ended up getting stomped equally. Basically, what I'm coming down to say here is that I enjoyed what I played. It's probably an entirely different feel playing like-minded people all trying to get some gameplays and putting it all on the line as well. I'm not trying to sell you on anything here at this. You don't have anything to lose with an alpha, especially when it's open. But listen, man, if you don't like it, that's cool. I totally respect that. I'm just here telling you what kind of gameplay you can expect from this game. I'm looking forward to getting more hands-on experience here over the coming weekend and in the general public here, and not necessarily just on private matchmaking, so we'll see how things work out over the coming days. As for some of the concerns I have here at this, one of the big things that I had a concern with was the spawns. Some spawns in this are really bad. I'm pretty sure that it was the courtyard map. At one point, you end up actually spawning looking directly at your enemy, so if you have a sniper, that's an easy one-shot, one-kill because you have 3 or 4 seconds to line it up as well. And then also, if you don't have a sniper and you just have a regular auto rifle or something like that, you can control your recoil super easy, and that's an easy kill right off the rip. So that map also has so many points where it's just easy to watch enemies spawn, so that one can use some work, I think. I imagine we end up seeing that change a little bit and it won't be exactly the same at launch. Also on market, the one spawn is literally visible from like a few steps to your left or right, depending on where you spawn at. You don't spawn at the true opposite ends for some reason. You kind of like spawn at the opposite side of mid-map. So hopefully that's adjusted as well. One thing that I'd love to see for quality of life going forward here at this is that right now there's no cash drop feature. This would actually make utility and economy so much better, I think, and so much more tactical if you could drop, say, all your cash for your teammate or certain amounts, because you'll often come across times where a player ends up having like $2,800 in cash and your teammate will have like 500. If you could combine together and end up getting an extra life, that would help you out greatly in later rounds, but you can't do that right now. So hopefully that's something that gets introduced here and implemented later on down the line. Now, the only other gripes that I really had here at this came down to what we were playing on the PlayStation 5. Having played on PC, it was just kind of more so a system shock than anything else, dropping back down to an 80 FOV and 60 FPS locked. But that's something that, of course, isn't really too too big an issue. You're going to expect that if you're playing on console. It was just kind of weird to revert back to that after playing PC for the last year and a half or so. But that ultimately is Champion Hill here. Everything you can expect going into it, and of course, all my thoughts and everything on the table. So let me know your thoughts down below. Are you guys looking forward to Champion Hill? If you guys are jumping into it, let me know how you do, how you like the mode, or maybe don't like it. Whatever the case may be, let me know your thoughts down below. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Vanguard and anything COD related. Again, we have so much stuff you do not want to miss, so make sure you stick it here on the channel so you don't miss a single thing regarding it. If you also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. I live on both those. If you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever the case may be, that link is down there in the description below. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.